Support Pro Play Games on Patreon.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're back at it again with another deck profile here on the PPG channel, and this time for another one of my favorite decks. It does seem like we're in BT9, but I love looking at the old decks and kind of expressing how absolutely powerful they are, even in these new formats, adapting and overcoming what is to come. So let's get right to it. Lilith Loop in 2022, baby. So this deck, if you're a new player, maybe you haven't seen most of these cards put into a deck together, but this is basically purple good stuff. It obviously uses the effect of a Lilithmon, the Digimon that this deck is named after, for looping the Jack raids, getting a bunch of memory and able to get a massive amount of pressure, swings, and just advantage with one card and in one turn, right? So you're setting up for this crazy turn using your trash, your hand, and your deck in order to get you and facilitate this huge turn that will eventually lead you to winning the game. So Lilithmon, one of my favorite Digimons, an absolute Chad coming in from BT3, an absolute mommy. So as we're all been looking at Beelstar, we may have forgotten about what Lilith can do, and I'm here to remind you guys that this deck is very powerful and in a format that gives you a lot of time when you don't have a lot of decks pressuring you almost immediately. Obviously in stack deck format, if the stack deck has the stack, they kill you, but you're borderline a stack deck with your own OTK built in if you would like. That also has the ability of going really wide. It has deletion options, it has recyclability, it has tamer control. It kind of does it a little all. So I like this idea. I am testing out a couple cards here that I'll get to, and I'm going to say that are a little bit more questionable than others, but there's definitely a really solid backbone here that I would suggest that you guys explore if you enjoy playing purple cards, and if you have access to them, of course. So let's start off with the rookies. In a mill-centric deck, or a deck that really wants to set up the trash, what is one of the best rookies that you can possibly have, and that is Gabumon. Gabumon is almost unmatched in the fact that it is an on-deletion draw 2 discard 1. When you pair that with the effect of Demi-Meramon, which is your only Digitama, you definitely get to cycle 3 cards in hand while also setting up 2 cards. And if you somehow pair that up with Eismon, we know how powerful it is to go 6 and 5, right? Or 6 and 4, am I crazy? Yes, 6 and 4, my bad. So yes, we do know how powerful 6 and 4 can possibly be. Graceful Charity plus a 2/1 plus a 1/1. It's a lot of cards going into the trash can. You're filtering through so much cards in your deck that you're going to get a lot of cycle. When you pair that up with cards like Calling from Darkness, these cards that usually do have jamming, such as Eismon, become a lot more powerful as you start grabbing other sources while also gaining advantage in your trash and in your hand. And the fact that we play Lilithmon makes sure that this card is almost infinitely recyclable, as well as Dracomon coming into the mix, but we'll get to him a little later. So then we're going to talk about Gazi, one of the best floodgates in the game right now. Memory stopping is one of the biggest things that we can do right now to stop these big decks like Alphamon and Imperial, and Gazimon and all the memory blockers for that matter have made a huge rise in the format, especially with every deck playing a couple of boosts and a couple of memory options that are not via Tamer. This card is an absolute monster, and he's been a monster for a very long time. Then we have Psychmon. Psych? That's the wrong number, bro. This card is mostly made to stop D-Reaper as well as Death Xmon, right? Death Xmon is a super powerful card, and our deck kind of goes wide. When you do that big pop-off turn with Lilithmon, Winraid, Omnimon, Zwart, and you just go wide, you're setting up to get Death X'd. And although Death X is an insane card and will probably stop you from potentially getting that huge advantage if you don't necessarily win, Psychmon puts a wrench in his plan, and this card can get recycled by a couple different Digimon in our deck and can be summoned from our trash if necessary. In a format or a matchup where this card isn't necessarily useful, it's just a rookie that we Digivolve and it does what it does. 3 costs that could eventually potentially win us games just by existing in our decks, or we just use it as a way to climb up the stack. And then our last rookie, we have Dracmon. So Dracmon, on play, it will add a 1 cost purple option to my hand, or a 7 cost. Now, as you can see, there are no 7 cost options, but we do play 1 up, and this card is absolutely broken. In the Japanese meta, it's almost being talked about getting hit as well. This card is very, very powerful, being able to add 2 cards from your hand at any point in time for 1 memory by deleting one of your Digimon. In this deck, deleting your Digimon is very, very powerful, as we have Cerberusmon. We have all these on-deletion effects that trigger if they don't necessarily die to security. So it double works for our deck, and the fact that you don't even have to delete a Digimon to get its effect, crazy, crazy card. Then we have Kinkakumon, right? We have the Ginkakumon line here, which is a usual 2-2-1 split is the one that I've seen the most, right? So in formats where memory blockers are very, very prevalent, our deck kind of uses Digimon to gain memory. We use Lilithmon, we use our boost, and our Jack raids to pop off, right? So we can't have any memory blockers on the board. And what does Kinkakumon do? It says that when we swing with any of our Digimon, usually when we're swinging with Promote on top of it, we're going to go ahead and trash a card from my hand to go delete a level 3, which is double good because we want to trash cards from our hand as well as dealing with the memory blockers. So this card is very, very powerful. At the end of the day, it is a level 4 cost, so you can think of this as another rookie. Just to go over that, we'll go about it later because the rookie count is very misleading in this deck. As you see here, we have 4, 3, 2, 1, so we have 6, 4, we have 10 rookies, right? Which in a purple list you would think that's very low, but I'm going to go explain to you why we don't have 10. We have somewhere close to like 18. We have 10 here. This is a 4 cost level 4. I like to consider 4 cost Digimon also similar or akin to rookies. So we have 10, 12, another 4. We have right here 16 plus another 3. We have 19 possible rookies that we can play. And if you want to consider boost as well as another one, because it's a card that nets you advantage for searching through your deck, something that's very okay with starting with, we have somewhere between 21 possible starters in our deck, which makes it so that our turn 1 usually was not a nice little brick, even if we don't see a level 3. Then we have Ginkaku. Ginkaku is a once per turn when you trash a card from your hand, gain 1 memory, right? So when you have the promote line, when he is summoned back, it says on play states that you can, if you have a Kinkaku and a Ginkaku in your trash, you can kind of like put it under him and gain a memory, draw a card, right? So this card is a 6 on play. If you were to just on play it, it becomes a 5. And if you're able to swing with it, it becomes a 4 cost, right? Because you necessarily trashed a card from hand and gained a memory. Now, if you're doing that off of a Zwart, it basically means that your Zwart, which you're playing for 6 to summon these Ginkakus, now becomes a 5, right? Because instead of on playing him for 6, you're summoning him with this. You're getting the on play effect. You're summoning him for 5, summoning him for 4, summoning him for free. Gaming. But Ginkakumon Promote, a very, very powerful card. A card that, in my opinion, should have never been printed. It is a card that when summoned, it just naturally has a rush, and it has a very crazy on play. So if you're able to summon it and have it trigger its on play via another effect, it just does a little too much. And honestly, he looks super cool. What a very interestingly designed card. Very, very powerful. And at the end of the day, it does evolve over a level 4 for 1. So sometimes when you don't have the right cycle, let's say you have a rookie, and again, you go this, and we're still at 3 memory, and we're still cycling a couple cards while setting up some pretty solid inheritables. Then we have Eismon, a man that needs no introduction, an absolute powerhouse of a champion? Yes, a powerhouse of a champion in this deck. Drawing 3, discarding 2. For those that don't know, Graceful Charity is a good card, and those who don't know what Graceful Charity does, do yourself a favor and look it up. What an insanely powerful effect that this is in any card game. Cycling through 3 cards and a deck that wants to set up the trash, it does both, and it does it well. Its partner in crime had to be put to 1, and unfortunately because of that, and due to so many good cards having to be put in this deck, I can't even find space for his partner. If that card was still at multiples, it would be a little bit more difficult to play a couple cards here. But if you do want to play the just regular Eismon that is at 1, I feel like there's enough space where you can find a spot for him in this deck. Then we have Cerberusmon. For those that you don't know, this is a level 5 Digimon, evolves for 3, on deletion, trigger, draw 2, then trash 1 card from your hand. So what makes the werewolves good, right? Because you have the Cerberusmon, and then you have its werewolf mode that just has rush, and you may delete one of your Cerberusmon to gain 9 memory. Now, this is another card that gets destroyed by memory blockers, right? Which makes it so that all these cards that that deal with memory blockers so pivotal and important to your deck, right? Because we need to make sure that we can get our plays off and not get choked by a Madoki or a Gazimon. So we delete this Cerberus to go ahead and gain rush, as well as do its whole filter effect, draw 2, discard 1, right? Now, if we play this werewolf mode with a dead or alive, perchance, now it becomes, since this is an 8 cost and this is a 9, we actually net gain a memory when we do this play. If we have any sort of analog use on the board and a Cerberus has a stack on top, or it's on top of a 4, you know, it swings, it lives for some reason. It is 6k, which is not something to scoff at. If Eismon can live in security, maybe Cerberus can as well, but it's kind of risky to lose the stack when you don't need to. Then you can Dead or Alive. Dead or Alive will net you on memory by summoning Werewolf mode from your trash, or you can, if you have Werewolf mode, you can just summon it from hand. And then Analog, for as many as you have, you can tap it because you deleted a level 5 with sources to gain and net another memory. Now, this is a tamer memory, so it's a little bit more difficult for your opponent to interact with. So definitely a very powerful synergy that comes with these werewolves. something that wasn't really used in Lilith Loop decks in the beginning, but then found their way as staples, as their interaction with Dead or Alive as well as Analog Youth is just nothing to scoff at. The fact that this card can trigger insecurity, and if a Cerberus Mon is in the play area and you hit this insecurity and you summon a werewolf mode, this is a Giga Hammer Spark. So if they don't have a memory source to stop the werewolf mode from popping the Cerberus Mon, you just gain net 9 memories. So you basically start your turn at close to like 7+, right? And that should be a win from there, right? Any deck that makes it to 7 memory should be able to capitalize that advantage very heavily, and this was a deck that with very little can do a lot, right? There is no memory tamer here. We have all our memory gain from our Digimons, our spells, as well as our tamers. So obviously this deck can run with 1 memory. Imagine what it can do with 10. On to our 1-of level 5s. We play a 1-of Black War Groundmon. Again, because we do play the Calling from Darknesses as well as many recycle effects from our deck, it is okay to play a couple 1-ofs because these 1-ofs you do get to see them and then they do make a big impact into your game plan, right? Black War Growl is an insanely powerful card. Easy to build a stack in the back with this Digimon. You'll go ahead and Digiburst it to summon maybe like a Gazi or a Psyche. You're cool with that. And then if you're able to Digivolve on top, its inheritable is unbelievable. It was once per turn, delete one of your other Digimons to unsuspend this Digimon. So you're basically getting 2 checks with this if you can go ahead and keep turn with the Digimon that you're evolving into here. Usually this combos off really well with Titamon, and this is the OTK that the deck necessarily has. And it's something that's very, very plausible, right? You can definitely 5-check someone in 1 turn if you just have the right stack as well as the Black War Groundmon. The other level 5 that we play is Rebellionmon. So a Digimon that gains Retaliation plus Blocker, so it is gaining it. Very, very powerful, right? So it makes these decks that are wanting to full clear your security. If they don't have the right Digivolve, if they don't have the right deletion effect, Rebellionmon kind of just says pass the turn, right? And if we can continue to recycle him via different effects, then he just becomes insanely powerful. A 1-of Rebellionmon isn't necessarily, it's something that I'm testing out right now. It's not something that I think is completely stable. And if you don't really like him or you haven't found any success with him, definitely you can cut him for a couple other cards that I can mention in the future as we get to the end of the deck profile. Then we play a 2-of Chaos Lucimon. This card just needs no introduction. It is Tamer Control. It is absolutely powerful coming out of security. If you hit Dead or Alive and you trigger it, it just deletes a level 6. It deletes a Tamer. It is a level 5 body with a 12k DP base. Like, that is just insane. The stats on this Digimon as well as its effects are off the charts, and he's basically made an inclusion along with Creepymon to many purple decks, as it gives you alternate win conditions with a milling as well as giving you the possibility of getting a level 5 for free at a point in time where your opponent can't play around it. So definitely this card is another card that you can cut down the numbers of. Again, this is a card that you know, you can see the price point here is a little high, so not everyone has access to it, and you don't necessarily need it to play the deck, but it definitely does add a little bit more power and oomph now that we're using Dead or Alives in the main. And on to our level 6, Lilithmon. For those that you don't know, when you summon this Digimon or when Digivolving, if you have 10 or more cards in trash, you can add 2 purple options from your trash to my hand. Then once per turn, when I play purple option, when I use an option card, gain 2 memory. So you tend to use these jack raids, right? So you'll be at 1 memory, you'll jack raid up to 3. You'll play Lilith will add you the jack raids, then you play the jack raids, you'll gain 2, gain 1. So it's almost like you summon Lilithmon for free, and then you added a jack raid bonus. So you'll have a net 1 memory. The more cards in trash, this net 1 becomes net 4, net 3, net 7. Like, it becomes a little crazy, right? And once you have these net memory gains, you capitalize it by going into an Omnimon Zwart. Omnimon Zwart will go ahead and then continue to summon the Kinkaku Promotes. You'll summon a Cerberus Mon. You'll get insane advantage here as you're getting rush cards coming at your opponent. You get to swing with the Zwart, add the Lilithmon back, play it on top of another level 5 that you've summoned, which will then get its effect. Go ahead and add the Jack Raids back, and you just keep looping, right? That's the idea. You want to summon a couple. You want to use the same Lilithmon recycled by Zwart, so at least summon her at least twice in 1 turn to gain a massive amount of advantage. If you can make double Zwart, God bless. If you can make Zwart plus another level 6, then you're really solid, right? You're really set up to end the game very quickly. Zwart can also summon any Digimon that is 8 cost or lower, I believe, from the trash. Let me go ahead and make sure I'm not absolutely crazy. It's been a while. 8 or less, right? So I can summon any Digimon from our deck that is a level 5 or lower that is not werewolf mode, right? So if you want to get this guy just for his inheritable, you can go ahead and get him back. You can summon back Rebellionmon, although that is a terrible idea. Don't ever do that. And obviously Lilithmon you can't, right? So we're basically summoning back Cerberusmons, we're using it to summon back Genkaku Promotes, and we're using it to summon Black War Growl. Those are our three main targets, right? Because our Genkaku will then trigger. It does have Rush and retains Rush. If you summon Cerberusmon, you can go Cerberus Werewolf mode then afterward to get another check, and then you'll go ahead and swing. 9k is super duper safe, and then you can finish with playing Lilith on top of this. So Zwart is basically delete a Digimon, recycle a Lilith, 2 swings. Very, very powerful in this deck, right? Then we have Tidamon. Now, Tidamon is a card that's left and it's become a little bit left in obscurity. It's actually super crazily cheap. It's about $4 for the altar, which I thought was a little wild. So this Digimon, when Digivolving, trash a card from your hand, then I can play one level 4 lower Digimon from my trash without paying its memory cost. Right? That's the main target. It does gain its, when Digivolving effects, it doesn't have the stipulation that it does not gain it. Your turn, once per turn, when you trash a card from your hand using one of your effects, gain 2 KDP and security attack +1 for the turn. So when Digivolving, you did trash a card, right? So he is now going to be 14k, 2 checks. And then if you discarded a card and summoned Promote, if Promote got its effect, now instead of summoning him for 4, you're summoning him for a cost of 3 because Promote's going to go ahead and gain you some memory. If this goes ahead and summons Genkaku, you summon him for 2, and he does have security attack +1. So you can go ahead and check with him, or you can even add a scatter mode back. If you have Black War Growl under him, then you have 2 checks, restand 2 checks while also doing this. Very, very powerful card, and can sometimes surprise your opponents from the amount of advantage you can do. If you do your Zwart turn and you just start having all these amassed cards, you can go this card, 2 check, restand 2 check, Zwart, and then make this really wide board with Psyche. I would probably go Psychemon and Cerberusmon to just kind of like put pressure, and it's very hard for my opponent to respond at that point. So Tidamon is one of the toolbox purples. This is the killing toolbox purple, the one that I'm choosing to end the game with. And he's very, very interesting. Although all the purple level 6s kind of pseudo end the game in a different way. Lilith does it by advantage. Tidamon does it by checks. Creepymon does it by board control and mill. And then Golfmon does it by deleting your opponent's hand and aggression. So it's a very, very bizarre set of cards that we have here as our level 6. Is another one of the cards that I'm trying. You can switch this out for other cards at any point in time that you don't feel this card is too necessary. But I'm giving him a try. Just look at him. I haven't seen this card played at all. And he has such one of the coolest effects in the game. So Creepymon, again, if your opponent has 2 Digimons, you mill a total of 4 because you mill 2 for each card they have on the board, and then you can summon a level 5 or lower Digimon from your trash, ignoring its play cost, ignoring everything. So your number 1 target is, yeah, boy, Lilithmon. Lilithmon comes out, it does tamer control, deals with level 6 or lower, and sets up a level 5 body. Then when he swings, for every 10 cards in your trash, with this deck can amass cards in trash, your opponent needs to mill the top 3 cards of their deck. So if you have 30 cards in trash, they mill 9. 9 is a very, very large number for your opponent to mill. It's something they're not calculating, because if you mill 9, they might just deck out, right? If this card ever gets to swing twice, right? 9, 9, that's 18 cards out of your opponent's deck. And 18, let's round it to 20. That's more than a total third of your opponent's deck. May be too much for them to come back from, and you can even mill their win cons or things like that. So Creepymon, a very cool card, very creepy, and a lot of people have been trying to make him work for a very long time, and I'm grateful that he is added to the purple lineup. Super cool level 6. And Golfmon, right? So Golfmon, what does this card even do? Have you even seen this card? Who is this guy? So when Digivolving, a cost of 4. Again, this is one of the reasons that you maybe don't see him. He's another 4-coster, right? So we do have 2 of the 4-costers here. Kind of heavy, right? But we're trying them. If they don't work, we can switch them out. All players trash cards from their hand until they have 5 cards left, right? So this deck, sometimes in this stack format, you see people have like insane hands. They have like 12 card hands, and you're like, my goodness, that's just too many cards. So if you necessarily can get a Golfmon off, cut them down to 5, yeah, they'll keep the 5 pieces, but once you deal with those 5 pieces, it's going to be very difficult for them to rebuild. It's going to be very difficult to have the answers to your board. And as well as the fact that this Digimon, once per turn, one of your effects trashes a card from your hand, unsuspend one of your Digimon. Now you can, let's say you swung with a werewolf mode, swung at them for 9k, it lives, you go Golfmon, remove the cards from your hand, restand your Golf, right? So now it's a restood level 6. That is a 12k body, which is again relatively safe. And each turn after that, due to your inheritables, your Eismon, your Demi-Merimons, any card that trashes a card from your hand, you can swing, unsuspend, swing. So this card is actively applying pressure. Although it doesn't have a security +1, it did net you a bunch of advantage by removing advantage from your opponent, right? Because this deck only needs a couple cards in hand to pop off, because we use our trash to pop off, right? Then we play Death Xmon. This is one of the cards that I would up their counts if I'm not enjoying a couple of the other cards, right? So if you're not enjoying Golfmon, you're like, whatever, this card was mediocre, didn't enjoy him too much, or if I didn't enjoy Tidamon or didn't enjoy Rebellion, those cards immediately come out for more Death X, right? This card is you can go all the way up to this to 4. This card is insane. I think a 2 lineup is something I would go ahead and try. So like I said, this is something of a base that I'm testing out. And Lilithmon, this seems like a good number. This seems like probably the correct number, but it's just another kill option. Huge body, very difficult to deal with. The fact that we have Calling from Darkness so we can recycle with Lilithmon at any points in time. This card's absurd, man. I've seen this card solo win in so many games because it's so hard to out. And once you have multiples on board, my goodness, unless there's a board clear like an Iron Fist or something that deletes based off play cost or something like that, then this card is just going to stick there. It's very, very sticky, very, very strong, and has a continuously oppressing effect in the end of opponent's turn. A bananas card. Bananas card. And then Zwart here, the card that we're building to. We're going to go and have him amass a big turn. The reason we play 2 of it as opposed to 1, right? Because the only 1 Zwart theoretically needs to resolve to win the game. It's because you want to A, see it, and B, make sure that it's not in your security, right? Oftentimes, there are key pieces that need to not be in your security, aka promote, aka Zwart. So like you can theoretically deal with one of this, because once you have one of this in your trash, you're going ham, right? So if you wanted, like, you want more of these pieces to be in your trash, right? Because you want their inheritables. But the idea is you don't want to have it bricked in your security where you cannot interact with it. And once it does that, you're kind of stuck, right? So you need to at least play 2 of these very important, like, rush cards, because these are the cards that will effectively naturally win you the game. So Zwart is a 2 of, absolutely powerful. When digivolving mill 3, summon 2 Digimon from your trash that are purple or black with a on-play cost of 8, and they do get their on-play effects with ignoring their memory costs. When attacking, return a level 6 to your hand and delete an opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 12 or less, right? And unsuspended. Making sure you remember that, unsuspended Digimon. So oftentimes people will leave their Digimons unsuspended so you can interact with them. Zwart will go ahead and delete them while recycling a level 6, and even if it doesn't delete anything, it recycled a level 6, right? That's the most important thing. Adds it right back to hand. So as you play Lilith to amass memory to summon him, and then you summon another level 5, you add the Lilith back, replay the Lilith, gain the memory, and keep going ham. Very powerful card and pivotal for these big turns. We have our Jack Raids, one of the Hammer Sparks of the deck, recyclable Hammer Spark that consistently gets stronger. So this card sucks early, but late game it is an absolute monster. Now I've seen people go 4 on this card, but I like a nice 3. Just like how I like my Hammer Spark at a 3 of, I also like my Jack Raids at a 3. I really don't know my reasoning behind it, but when I play it at 4, I feel like I see it too much early, and when I see it too much early, it just kind of bricks me, because even though this is a card you never ever want to discard from your hand, because you'll learn that over time for playing this deck that you want to keep this card in hand and then use it to pop off and then add it back, right? You don't just want to be like, oh, it's not usable right now, I'm just going to discard it, because you're going to wish you had that card later on in the game. And when I was playing it at 4, I definitely just saw it a little too much. Then we have Calling from Darkness. Yeah, I mentioned this card earlier, an absolute monster. Dead or alive, this summons a purple level 5 Digimon from my trash without paying its memory cost. If I have 10 or more, it summons the yellow Lucy, but who ignore that effect. This is an 8 cost summon level 5 from trash. Now, it's just made to make Werewolf mode a net 1 memory because of the 9 play cost and 9 memory gain. It's also used in security to summon a Lilithmon if necessary, and not oftentimes, but if this play ever happens where you have the Cerberusmon, as I spoke earlier, and this gets in security and you Werewolf mode on your opponent's turn, the game literally ends. Legitimately is over. The only reasoning, or the only things you have to be worried about is, remember that Cerberus mode, this form of the werewolf is 6 KDP, and you know who spins 6 KDPs? Paledramon, and that guy is a menace. So got to be careful with how you play this card and the matchups that you just kind of leave him on the board. Then we have 2 boosts. Boosts are just boosts. It kind of gets you to the pieces. This is a piece reliant deck, and you do have to see some of the cards. You have to see Lilith to win this game. You do have to see some amount of werewolves and promotes, right? So you want to just get to those pieces early. It also acts as a pseudo rookie. It is a recyclable card as well, because Lilith adds 2 purple options, and this technically is a purple option that if you want, you can play it. Some people opt to play Miss the Memory Boost, which is a mill 2 draw 1, because you're setting up the trash while drawing and adding the delay. I want to see the top 4 cards in my deck, and I want to pick the one that I'm getting to hopefully get the pieces that I need to win the game. Oftentimes you want to see the Kings or the Ginks just to make sure you set them up. Maybe you need the Rebellion specific matchup against red, or you need the Black Wargrowl to kill your opponent. So I feel like Memory Boost does add a lot of flavor and a lot of potential unbricking nature to my deck. Then we have, for our tamers and white cards, win rate 60%. So we lost Mega Digimon Fusion in order to create win rate. Mega Digimon Fusion was an absolutely necessary deleted card from the game. That card was way too much, and I'm glad it got removed from the game. No complaining on that. But we do have win rate 60%. Now, what win rate 60% lets us do, it is a 2-cost option, aka free with Lilithmon on the board. That says trash a card from my hand, set up the trash, and then our next time we would digivolve any Digivolution, reduce it by a cost of 4. So remember, this is a reduction effect, so if they have some sort of clam on the board or reducer stopper, make sure to look into that and not get bodied. But it makes your Zwart, you know, you're paying 2 for a net of 4, so it makes it a 4 cost, right? But if you have your Lilith, now it makes it a 2 cost. If you have 1 Jack Raid that pops off, it makes it free. If you have Ginkakus, you're netting. So as you start to see it, you're starting to realize the synergies, the amount of memory that you can gain from these cards, and the amount of control that it can possibly add to make a lot of these cards, although they have these big values, they start to become closer and closer to free. And we know how good free is. So, and then our last card, Analog Youth. Analog is a great card of the deck because it is a pseudo rookie. It is a 2-cost. You needed the tamer for the Cerberus Werewolf plays. It also filters through your deck, adds you the card that you need while setting up the trash. One of my favorite cards. That artwork is absolutely monstrous. And for our Digitama, it is obviously a 4 of the Debbie Merrimon. If you want to play a 5th egg for whatever reason, I don't think the games go to infinity with this deck. This deck will kill you, right? Even the control decks that are playing Avenged Kidmon, be careful. Be wary. Don't just destroy all your Jack Raids, right? Don't make sure to keep all the Jack Raids in the trash, because all you need versus that deck is 1 pop-off turn and they lose, right? When you do 1 Zwart pop-off turn, make sure to end off of a Psyche so that they can't Death X-Mon you, and those guys are going to fold like potatoes. So it's all about knowing the matchups, knowing about what you got to do, and seeing your win conditions. I feel like this deck in the format that we're in right now is very powerful. Your opponent can go through all of your security, but if they don't kill you, there's always a chance to win. And this is a very interesting deck that I just want to bring out there. Make sure you guys remember the loop is still active. Play around with it. If you don't like the gulfs, hey, what up? You know, if you don't like the boosts, hey, what up? I'm just kidding. But I am a really big enjoyer of Death X-Mon. Well, enjoyer might not be the right word. This card's absolutely bananas. But there's obviously a lot of plays and moments where you can change things around. I do like the Dracmon because the Dracmon can be summoned off this Zwart to trigger its on play to get the Calling from Darkness if necessary. You don't always have to Lilith grab Calling if you don't need to. Dracmon's always there to just kind of get your back. But if you don't think you need him and you're seeing a lot of decks like Mother D Reaper, you can always up the Psychmon count because Psychmon really bodies those decks, as well as decks that are just spamming Death Xmon. So very solid card. And there's a lot to be played around with this deck. This deck is a very versatile. There are bones here that I wouldn't move. But other than that, you guys can really just do whatever and have fun with it. So if you made it this far in the video, thank you. Appreciate you. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about Lilithmon Loop and how you think this deck can be good for this format and for the following formats. Purple just keeps getting better and better support because we just have such good bones that as we keep getting just a little bit of cards, the deck really starts to pop off. So thanks again. Check us out on Twitch. We're live streaming every Thursday. Our locals events, commentary between myself and a couple of the other PPG Digimon content creators. We're starting to stream our Sword Championships and our big Saturday tournaments. We're trying to put content right back up. I know we had a big pause, guys, and I'd like to apologize for that. Even after the video where we said we were going to pop off on content, right? We did have a couple of missteps and things that happened and fell through the works, but we're coming back with more Digimon content and being there for you guys. And as always, guys, keep supporting us the way that you do. Leave comments on how we can get better. Check us out for potential future Bandai card game content. And as always, keep talking. And this time, Sergio sucks. Leave a comment that says Sergio sucks, just so I know that you got to this point in the video. Thanks.